And as we wait for the slides to go on to full screen mode, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Faye, and I'm the Managing Director of RavelWorks Africa. So many of you have met me remotely over the last couple of weeks in the variety of webinars that we have been doing. Do so now so that we don't have a big interference. Thank you very much. So let's just get the slides onto full screen and then we'll get started. Great. I know Ivy is helping me to get everything running smoothly. So like I said before, this is our second webinar in the series, and our series actually consists of a number of webinars which are looking at the new normal, and you'll see that on the next slide. So it's 4 webinars in total that we are running with you, and it's about the first one we had a couple of weeks ago already, which was about taking care of yourself and your workforce in these times of uncertainties. Today we're looking more at managing a remote workforce in these times of uncertainty. I know that many of you have had to transition very quickly from working in the office to now working remotely without much preparation. And then we have another 2 coming up, which are about managing change and transition, and also business continuity, particularly for smaller and medium-sized enterprises that are quite heavily impacted. But before I get started, let me just say something about our audience demographics as well, which is quite exciting. And so we have over 300 actually registrations in this webinar from all over. So while, you know, Kenya and Uganda have a very heavy presence, I'm really excited to see that we also have participants from Nigeria, from Somalia here, from South Africa, India, Lebanon. So welcome to everybody who has decided to join us. And also we have a really wide range of demographics as well in terms of sectors. So we've got people from the private sector here, the NGO community, research institutions, and government agencies. So that's really nice to see. We'll just move to the slide on the disclaimer, just to make sure that we are all on the same boat when it comes to the disclaimer kind of notifications. So first of all, what is important to know is that our webinars are really for information sharing purposes only. So they do not replace any kind of advice that we're getting by our national governments or specialized agencies such as the CDC or our ministries of health. I know a lot of you sent in advanced questions which were more in the legal sphere, so asking about, you know, can I put my workers onto unpaid leave? When can I, you know, start dismissing people? So while we might give some insights in terms of what we are hearing and what we are doing with our clients, it is not a legal opinion. So we always still recommend that you talk to your lawyer. And finally, our webinar is also not industry specific. Like you've just seen, we've got a really wide variety of people in the audience. So we will not be looking at, you know, what does this mean for you if you are in the insurance industry or automobile or restaurant. It's really much more broader than that. And it's aimed at sharing our experiences and our research from the work that we've been doing with some of our clients over the past couple of weeks. Now, you do all have a chat function in this webinar, so please do share your questions and comments that you might have as we go through the slides in there, and we will endeavor to get back to as many as we can in the final moments of this webinar. But in terms of just rules of the webinar, please keep your comments professional. You know, it's not about putting somebody else's question down or you know, putting something in the chat which is rather untasteful. Should that happen, you will be removed from the webinar immediately. So, okay. Then to rock off, in terms of our agenda, many of you have seen our agenda, which we sent out in advance, but we're really looking at those 4 kind of areas in terms of rapidly transitioning to a remote culture, setting up the foundations for this effective remote work, and looking at some best practices and common pitfalls. Before I go into the details of the webinar and much of the content, I want to be cognizant that last time when we did the webinar, a number of you kind of asked, you know, what is then even RavelWorks? You guys are doing these webinars. Who are you even? Why should we join you and listen to you? So I know that our name very often, RavelWorks, tends to be associated with the construction industry. And so many of you might be thinking, well, what is a construction company doing, you know, telling us about remote working or about, you know, transitioning our teams? Now, we are in the building industry, but not in the way that you think. So we don't build buildings, we build organizations. And more specifically, the main question that we always ask ourselves and we ask our clients as well is what makes a great place to work? And that's really what, as RavelWorks, we are concerned about. And looking at the future more specifically, and looking at the skills, the competencies, and confidence that your workers need for the future. And we do that by kind of looking at your organization holistically. Ivy, if you don't mind just going to slide number 9, where we can see the full kind of picture of an organization on slide 9. Great. So we really look at it more holistically in terms of your strategy, your systems, your people, your management culture, and do they all contribute to your business being fit for purpose and fit for the future? And right now, that question about being fit for the future is particularly pertinent as we are adjusting to this kind of new normal, right? And we're all trying to see what does this new thing mean for us, for our working, even for our strategies, our business plans, our hiring processes, etc. So I would like to actually start us off with just a quick poll, just to see, in terms of remote working, how well equipped are we when it comes to remote working? And the poll should be showing up on your screens. There we go. So does your organization have a pre-COVID-19 working from home culture? Is really the first question. So if you can just put in your votes, you've got 3 options there. Yes, we did have a culture of working from home anyways. No, this is really the first time. Or perhaps you say, well, we had it, but only for certain levels and certain positions. And the second question being around, do you feel like your staff are more productive when they work from home? So let's just give it another, I'm going to say 20 seconds to make sure that the results come in. I can see we've got 30 results so far out of a total of over 100. So maybe we give it a bit more than 20 seconds. I know that some of us might still be learning the software, and others here on the chat are already telling me, I've submitted my responses, thank you. So let's give it another couple of seconds, maybe until, yeah, maybe another 20 now at this point. That might be a good idea. But we can already see a couple of things. Okay, and some people already having to leave our meeting for other urgent commitments. We understand. We know that this is not normal circumstances. Many things might have come up all of a sudden. Okay. All right. Submitted. Many people telling me they have submitted. That's nice. All right. Okay. So I guess we can actually go ahead and then close the poll and just have a look and see what the results are telling us. So what we can see is that quite a few of you said, yes, we did have a previous culture even before COVID-19, but the majority of you are saying no. Actually, we didn't really have this established, and few of you saying, well, for some levels it was there. Similarly, when it comes to, you know, do we feel that our staff are more productive now that they're working from home? Quite a few of you saying, well, actually, I'm not sure, right? It's too new. We don't know. We don't have the data to measure this. There's a lot of other things going on right now with our teams as well. And what I want to let you know is that the results here are quite normal. It's the same things that we are finding with all of our clients that we are helping to transition to remote working right now. It's a lot of confusion, anxiety going on as we try to transition. And like I said in the beginning, many of you as organizations are being pushed, right? You're being pushed to move to remote working for the first time due to the current circumstances. And we know that there has been a lot of research over the past few years telling us that, you know, remote working teams are more productive, they are more engaged, people get to integrate work and life, and, you know, it's good for your value proposition. But note that all of this research came out before COVID-19. So if you look at the, you know, World of Remote Working reports from 2019 and 2020, that was a very different set of circumstances. People were working from home by themselves, right? Your kids are not with you at home. Your children were at school, or your husband or your spouse wasn't there. Other family members were not there. So now the kind of working from home is a lot more intense because it's not no longer a choice. It's not something where you can wake up in the morning, sit down at your desk, the house is peaceful. You know, many of our clients are struggling because you are, for example, you're playing the role of mother, of teacher, of wife, of caretaker, of worker, all of these things at the same time. So we can close, we can take the poll results away. I think they are gone right now. And just to look a little bit more at this change and transition, and I would like to show you a curve which many of you might have seen before, which is a curve that looks at change and transition. So this is not new. It's from Kübler-Ross and actually already was developed in the 1960s. But what it shows us is that this is how we kind of respond to a change situation. And it takes a while for us to transition, right, from shock and denial all the way to acceptance. And I want to be very clear that many of the companies that you might be looking at right now that you say, oh, but they're working very successfully in their remote environments, likely they had years to fully plan that transition, to put in place the correct policies, the procedures, to put the technology in place, but also to hire the right staff, right? To hire for fit, because we know it's not everybody who functions well on the remote kind of setup. So on top of that, when we look also at this change curve, it's important for you to note that you as a manager, as a leader, or as an HR practitioner, you will be at a certain stage in this curve. And so are your staff and your different team members. So some of the staff might still be in the shock and in the denial phase, right? They might be going, I don't believe this. What is happening? What does it mean for my future, for my jobs, for my mortgages, my payments, all of these things. Other staff might be already more in the exploration stage. And I think we're seeing few who are fully accepted that this is the new normal. So the first thing really as leaders, as managers, is to acknowledge this. And you need to be aware of where you are right now and also where different members in your team are. So because your job naturally is to help your staff transition as quickly and as smoothly as possible from denial to more exploration and acceptance, okay? But we know that psychologically speaking, for us to move through change, we need to go through all of these stages. And that's something to keep in mind
I need some help
as we set up our teams for remote working. But I also want to highlight this change curve against the backdrop of our context in Sub-Saharan Africa. And I realize not everybody on this call is from Sub-Saharan Africa, but the majority of us are. And our situation is slightly different in the sense that we cannot just copy a lot of the approaches that we're seeing in the West into our work environments because our context is very, very different. And that's kind of some of the work we're doing with many of our clients is to help them transition with contextual specificities. So in our context, some of the things we need to keep in mind when it comes to the real fears that are different from other places is, first of all, the issue of remittances. And we know that, you know, From Europe, many of our countries are receiving about $18 billion every year in remittances. The US provides about $11 billion in remittances, etc. And what it means is that many of our households are relying also on these remittances to take care of ourselves or to take care of the extended family, right? We have family members who are based in the US and Europe, and normally they were sending us back a certain amount every single month. Now that chain has started to be cut because people in Europe, in the US and Middle East can no longer send money because they're also going home or working from home or jobs are being cut. Or even if they can send it, the money transfer systems are down. So this is putting a lot of additional stress on your workers. I want to be very clear. As much as you have sent them home, people are also worrying about what does it mean for my larger family. And that's exactly the second point here. In Sub-Saharan Africa, many of us, we live in an extended household. It's not just myself and my children and my husband, it's a lot of other people that we're taking care of as well. Grandmothers, aunties, elderly relatives, you know, your sisters or your brother's children. So now very often it means everybody's at home, right? It's not just you and your kids and your husband, that nuclear family, but you might have 5, 6, 10 people all being at home or in your home, making it very difficult in terms of working from home and being as responsive. I want to also highlight the issue of the informal sector. Again, the informal sector in Sub-Saharan Africa, we're looking at 80% of our workers being employed in the informal sector, and sometimes as high as, you know, over 90% if we include agricultural sector as well. And why this is important is, one, all of these workers, they do not have working from home, they don't have paid leave, they don't have insurance, but also all of us in the formal sector, we rely very heavily on this informal sector, right? Both at individual and at organizational level. Those informal workers very often provide us with transport services, repair services, food, cleaning, childcare, you name it. And so it's kind of creating a trickle-up effect, right? COVID-19 is destabilizing the informal sector, which as a result is having an impact on the formal sector and your employees as they are working from home. Finally, we've seen, based on your poll, many of you are also new to the concept of working from home. It's not something which we've really done at wide scale in many sub-Saharan African countries. You know, and if we have done it, it's been kind of once a week or 2 days a week. It's been very kind of structured in the sense of there are certain times when you can work from home. Now we have found ourselves almost overnight, everybody work from home all the time. And we don't always have the technology that goes with it. We haven't had the time to make sure all of the servers are set up. People have their scanners, printers, video cameras, microphones, etc. And that's something that we're seeing in many of the calls that we're doing now. People are coming in late because there's issues connecting, or the video keeps hanging, etc., etc. And I just want to highlight on the next slide as well that these fears are really real, right? And some of you who were in our last webinar, you will remember this slide. It's from a research that came out in the middle of March, and looking specifically at Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa, but looking at how workers were feeling. And the majority of fears really that your staff right now are having is around finances, okay? And it's something for you to be cognizant about, because fear is a major, major killer of motivation and engagement and focus, okay? So when we are therefore looking at working from home against this kind of backdrop, I just want to highlight to you who is kind of the influencer of this rapid transition. And that's on the next slide. So you, in essence, you are the influencer of rapid transition of your workforce to being remote, let's say fluent, like we call it, okay? So it's not the systems you have, it's not the software, it's not whether you're using SharePoint or Zoom or Skype for Business. That is not what is going to be decisive, okay, in this particular case. It's you as the leader, as the line manager, or as the HR practitioner. Your team, as you have just sent them home or said, you know, only certain people still stay in the office, Your team is looking to you for guidance. They're looking to you for stability and direction. So a lot of this transition and how quickly people can transition is going to depend on how well you are able to communicate to your staff, how quickly you are able to adapt yourself, and also your degree of emotional intelligence. So what we have been finding in the last couple of weeks is that most of our clients, right, in addition to managing the changes in their, let's say, implementation models and the business processes, they are also being challenged now in terms of practicing a more agile leadership approach. So the use of really different leadership approaches at any given point of time. And while you might say, well, that's easy to do, it actually requires quite a lot of conscious effort on your end and you being willing to come out of your comfort zone. And what we are seeing is that the leaders who right now are more effective in getting their teams up to speed when it comes to remote working are those that are practicing a more affiliative, a more participatory, consensual and supportive approach. And being less authoritarian and directional. And I know that can be a hard transition because many of you are used to, right? I'm the boss, I'm the leader, I tell you what to do, how to do it, when to do it, don't question me. And if that is your approach right now, it's not going to work as you move your people out of the office, right? So in that regard, we are really seeing that leaders right now are requiring a lot more one-on-one coaching to really help them to create strategies that maximize their impact. And I'll just stay on the point of emotional intelligence for a little bit. So just for us to look at that and what do we really mean and why are we focusing on emotional intelligence? Some of you might have hoped in this webinar we're going to give you a list of the tools and the softwares that you should be using to help your team. And again, I go back to saying it's not the tools and the software that is going to make you successful. So emotional intelligence, we know, has gained increasing importance and weight over the past years. Many of you as leaders, as managers, you have gone through EI trainings and this kind of stuff because it helps you to be better placed to navigate complexity and uncertainty. And in the current times, those leaders, those of you who are quickly able to exhibit high levels of emotional intelligence have a much more positive impact on your teams, which are now remote, and you're also able to ensure better business continuity. And so here we're talking about really your ability to identify not only your own emotions, but also those of others and to be able to manage them. And three specific kind of components of emotional intelligence stand out here for us. Good thing is it can be learned, EI, and so while you might be strong in certain areas, you might be weak in others. But I want to emphasize on three, and that is empathy, social skills, and self-regulations, because they are the ones that are most critical in this new normal and in the transition of working from home. So when we're talking about empathy, it's really your ability to sense, understand, and respond to what others are feeling, right? And being able to treat people according to their emotions. I go back to the Kubler-Ross change curve that we saw in the beginning. People are at different stages right now. They might be in full-blown depression. They might be very angry. And you as well might be in different stages. So it's understanding where your different team members are and treating them accordingly. At this point in time, empathy will go a long way. And we've been saying that for a long time. It's really being much more patient with yourself right now and also with the different members in your team. Some of you, you might have been working remotely now for already 3-4 weeks. Others, it's the first week. And it takes people different amount of time to adjust to that. So getting frustrated with people because they don't have their video on, or because there's a child making noise in the background, or because they weren't able to take a call is really not going to help you right now. And I give you a very practical example from my own team. I had one of my staff members this morning, they were working from their car because they didn't have any electricity. So the car was the only place they could charge their kind of devices. Another member of our team has not had internet for 3 days. Those are the realities. Getting worked up and you know, pushing people is not going to work. We had a couple of conference calls the last kind of days where you've got, you know, kids bouncing in the background because they want to see what is daddy doing on the computer, what is mom doing. It's normal. We need to go through this process. We need to allow our team some time to adjust, okay? The second one is around social skills. And that's really your ability as a manager to build networks, manage relations, and build rapport. So the question around how are you able to influence and inspire others now that you're not with them every day in the office, right? And we can see that social skills will really be a key one for you. And so you need to start being creative in terms of how you're going to do that, right? Very practically, some of the things that we are seeing, which makes a huge difference, is when you're doing team calls, is you as the leader, as the HR, as the manager, have your video on, okay? Have your video on. People want to be able to see your facial expression, your gestures. It's really, really important for them to connect with you at the moment. And spending some time with your staff on one-on-one check-ins. Going back again to that curve, it's not about checking in with them. Have you done the report? Have you finalized this particular data set? It's really just giving people a call and saying, how are you doing? How's everything going on your end? What's stressing you right now? What's burdening you right now? Social skills, being more creative in how you do it is going to help your team feel like they're being cared for. And this morning, actually, one of my team members shared with me, it's a research which is currently ongoing. So they're collecting data, but trying to see how many workers and employees right now feel isolated, they feel lonely, and they feel that their managers care for them. And interestingly, in the first couple of days of working from home, staff actually do quite well because they're trying to adjust to so many other things. What we start to see is after the first kind of 10 days, 14 days, 21 days is where it becomes extremely important, because that's when people start to feel isolated. They start to feel like, I don't know what's going on. Nobody's talking to me. You know, my manager is not picking her phone. My colleagues are not responding to my emails. So this is likely to happen. And finally, the issue of self-regulation. And that's your own ability as well to control and redirect your impulses and moods, and to suspend judgment. It's likely, and I'm betting, that many of you on this call are feeling stressed and anxious yourself. And so that means you might jump to a conclusion when your team members are not answering their email or not, you know, picking the phone when you need them to. And at this point, really, you working on your own self-regulation is going to be a huge game changer. So to have a look, what I'm going to do is we're going to invite you for another poll. And I just want to see with all of you kind of where do you fall when it comes to your own emotional intelligence right now. So the poll is being launched. So if you give us just a second, then you should see it on your screen. And just having a look at what component of emotional intelligence do you think you should be working on right now? So let me just give it a second. And otherwise, if the poll doesn't launch, then I'll just, yeah. So I can see, let me just in a moment take a couple of comments that I can see coming in here, which are about being anxious. You know, some of us are saying, well, we're anxious and social media is overwhelming us, which is not unusual at all. And I think Nuru, my colleague, will later talk about, you know, how do we manage the social media element. Energy levels have gone down. Absolutely. People are getting very distracted right now and finding it very hard to focus as well. You know, it's not that they don't know what they're doing, but okay. So let me have a look. I just want to check with you. Are you able to see the poll? Are you able to access the poll? Maybe if you can just put in the chat yes or no, that would be great. No, okay, okay. Yes, submitted. So some of you, yes. Many of you saying no. All right, let me just see if the poll comes up in the next couple of seconds. If not, then we'll just have a look via you guys typing in to tell us a bit more about which emotional intelligence components you want to be strengthening yourself right now. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So a lot of you saying no, you can't see the poll. That's fine. So let me just have a look then with you via the chat, just to understand from your end, you know, looking at those different components of emotional intelligence, which ones do you think you need to be working on right now yourself? And you can just type that in so I get a bit of a kind of overview of which emotional intelligence skills you think you should be working on right now. Self-motivation, yeah, absolutely. I see a few of you on self-motivation. Self-regulation as well. Yeah. Okay, yeah. All right. Thank you. Social skills. Yeah, I'm also just getting via my phone the kind of poll results on the back end here and showing me as well that the majority of you are saying, okay, my social skills is really the key one that I need to right now focus on in my workplace, but also the self-motivation, right? How do I, as a team leader, stay motivated myself and kind of give that stability to my teams, right? Because they are looking to me for this particular guidance. And what we are seeing for sure is that many of you are pretty strong on self-awareness, right? You can say you know that you are stressed or you're feeling anxious or overwhelmed, but you're struggling on some of the other components. And for those of you who have enabled that option, at the end of this webinar, we're going to share with you a self-assessment that you can take to assess your own emotional intelligence skill set, but also a book recommendation on something that you should and can be reading right now as a leader to help you manage your own emotions better and also be a better leader for your team. In addition to EI, there's a couple of other things that as leaders we should be focusing on. And at this point, I'll hand over Nuru to you to kind of walk us through a bit more. What should we also be looking at as leaders, Nuru?
Okay, thank you, Faye. So let us talk about us as leaders. I've seen all the comments coming in, the self-motivation, self-regulation, the social skills. The other thing I think we have to do, even as we're thinking about our social skills, what we're trying to do is to adapt to a different leadership style, okay? So in addition to all the elements that you have, you need to really, what happens for us as leaders is we lean towards a particular leadership style. You find people are more participatory, more directive or authoritarian, more affiliative. But right now, we need to be able to find leadership styles that are acceptable for the situations within which our team members are operating, okay? So we are working with a lot of leaders. Like Faye said, it's not easy to say, okay, this is who I usually am, but now I'm changing to become this other person so that I can be able to accommodate what, my team members. So we are doing a lot of one-on-one personalized leadership development, coaching to help executives discover their strengths and weaknesses as leaders and find strategies that they can use to maximize their impact on the teams that they're working with. So what we're trying to encourage our leaders to do is really, sorry, can you hear me? We're encouraging our leaders to navigate towards situational leadership, meaning you're navigating towards different leadership styles. Do my team members need direction, or do they need coaching, or do they need support at any given point in time, okay? Now, this is difficult to maneuver, especially if you're only used to one type, if you're just used to transactional or say transformational leadership styles. So we really talk to our clients and our leaders and try to help them to navigate through the styles, okay? Now, what are the things that we are hoping you can do? Because right now, leadership through crisis, like I said, requires adaptation, okay? Whereas we've been used to face-to-face interactions and rely on it to build our teams, to connect, we now must develop effective habits as leaders to lead from a distance. And as we're doing this, I've seen some of the comments have been, I need to feel like my team needs to feel like I'm supporting them, like we're connected, You need to be able to invoke that level of trust. And how do we invoke trust? By being transparent, okay? We've talked about emotional intelligence. We cannot, you really need to empathize, okay? That is something you must do at any given point in time. Before you point fingers, because we are also frustrated, you must think, well, what is Nuru's situation right now, okay? You need to build a rapport, which really emanates for you showing that you care about your team members. It's not about you just getting on the phone and saying, oh, okay, now I was doing our usual check-in, okay, are you fine? No, you care. Listen, people can tell when you're trying to connect with them. So it's really, really important, okay? Now, one of the things that we're encouraging leaders to do is to be decisive. This is not the time to sit on the fence. And we have a couple of those people who never really like making decisions. Now, if you have leaders who are doing this, then it's a challenge, because a decision is better than inaction. Inaction will paralyze your staff, will prevent progress, okay? So you must really, really, really make decisions, okay? The other thing that we are encouraging you to do, which is going back to the EI, is to listen differently. And part of listening differently is empathizing. It's crucial when you're dealing with people for them to feel like you understand their situation, okay? Now, leaders who show that they care, and this is from very, substantial research, are likely to have more productive, resourceful, and innovative teams, okay? Now, like I said, remember, we are used to face-to-face engagements, huh? So you show me you care, you come to my office, you reach out, oh, how are you doing? How are your children doing? But right now, when we're working remotely, you must really try to figure out, how can I connect with my team, Now, the other thing, remember, as you're empathizing and trying to connect, you're doing this as you're navigating the change curve, isn't it? So empathy allows you to understand. Whereas I've gotten to the point where I'm changing how I do things, Nuru is getting to the point where, oh my God, she's just tired, she's frustrated, she feels like giving up. You as a leader understanding where I am on that curve allows me to feel like we are connected, okay? It allows me to say, you care. So please think about that, all right? Remember, happy people are more productive. Now, how we navigate to get our teams to be happy is what we must consciously always think about, and we'll give you a few tips. The other thing I want to talk about is engaging differently. We've just talked about the different leadership styles, okay? As we are navigating the Kubler-Ross change curve, I don't want to start giving direction to somebody who is ready to give up, okay? So please remember that, situational leadership, okay? Right now, what might happen is you might find team members who are really good. You could just delegate work to them, no minimal supervision, minimal direction. They come back, they have results, you're happy, okay? Now you might find they're sliding back, and now you need to engage them more. So you need to now really be more supportive, okay? So again, you see, you're moving from just delegating, here, go do the work, to, okay, I delegated and I know you're capable, so you may not need direction, but you might need support, okay? So it's very important to think that way. Again, remember, communication is key, all right? If you're not communicating, then, you're losing a really big component of what you should be doing, all right? Now, part of that communication is giving constructive feedback, all right? It's very, very important right now to continue to strive to give constructive feedback to your team members, all right? So during some of our one-on-one coaching and training sessions, we really focus on giving feedback, looking at the situation, behavior and impacts, okay, model, where as hard as it sounds for leaders right now, you know, if you have a team member who is not doing well, you can't say, okay, but I know, you know, you must also figure out, how do I give this information to them in a way that still keeps them engaged? That's very, very important. Now, the thing about leadership, you know, you wear this big mantle because we expect you to have reached a certain level in your career. And so we want you to, in the same breath, as you're going through your stress and your anxiety, to be inspirational. We want you to motivate this team. And I just saw some of the comments like, you know, how do I keep people motivated myself? You know, I'm still, because you're human, you're going through this every day, you know. But you must figure out, how do I keep my team inspired, motivated to achieve the things that we have to achieve? Remember, if I get on the phone and Faye says, oh my God, you know, we are here, but things are looking really tough. I don't know if you saw the cases, and, you know, in our case for the people in Kenya here, we'll say our Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Mutahi Kagwe, came up and said 1, 2, 3, 4, oh my God, more cases are increasing. What you've passed down to me is stress and anxiety. And stress has a trickle-down effect. We don't want you, our leaders, our HR practitioners, our managers, to trickle that down. We're not saying you're not going through it. You need to go through it. We must go through it. We're human beings. But then what you pass down is what your staff get. You know, people want to be reassured. Part of leadership is coming up with that plan, is people saying, you know what, Nuru has a plan. It's fine. Let's just wait and see. She said it will be fine. Okay? And sometimes it's not that it will be fine. Sometimes it's acknowledging that we don't know. Don't lie. Please do not say it's going to be okay if you don't know whether it's going to be okay. It's okay to say we don't know. We will get back to you. Okay? Now, the other thing that, you know, we are seeing is, you know, have your regular check-ins. Okay? Have regular check-ins. At individual level, have your regular check-ins. You may have a team of 10. You can't say, I met with my 10 team members and I feel now we are on the same page. In any team, there are people who are really loud. You know, there are people who don't want to talk so much. There are people who are not controversial. We are different personalities. That's what makes teams really strong places to operate from. But on that breath, acknowledge that sometimes you have to have one-on-one check-ins. Build rapport with your team members. And for you as leaders, this might mean getting out of your comfort zone again, because you may be a leader because you're technically competent, but your social skills, could do with some work. That is fine. Acknowledge that. We can all always learn new skills as we move forward. Okay? So please, and have structure. Remember, I wake up in the morning, I have structure, all right? I wake up, I prepare my children, they go to school, I get into my car or I get in public transport and I go to the office, okay? And at 1 o'clock I have lunch and at 5 o'clock I come home. We thrive on structure. It's what our school system is based on, is it not? So remember, that same structure is what your team members want to see. It's just a new type of structure, okay? Now, we have there a really big word, asynchronous collaboration. What does this mean? To simplify this, let me give you a practical example, okay? I work very well at 3 a.m.
Trouble connecting to the internet.
I have
your Wi-Fi network connection by going to settings.
Okay, I don't know. Sorry, that's part of working from home. Something happened there. Okay. Can you hear me? I hope you can hear me. If you can, just raise your hand. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Something happened there for a minute. Now, when we say asynchronous collaboration, what are we talking about? Now, we are used to open door policies. Come and see me. Fine, just walk in, ask me a question. And we work to 8 in the morning. I'm just one of those people. If I wake up at 3 to 8, I am telling you, I'm at my most creative. If I'm designing a class, that's the time I want to myself. Those 5 hours are critical to me. And then my morning hours are really good. But from 3 o'clock, I need to be doing tasks where I'm not overexerting myself, okay? Now, I know that about myself. And there are other team members who work very well, you know, at night. I mean, Faye will work late into the night sometimes. And, you know, she's like, oh my God, I wake up in the morning and there are emails. That is okay. This is the time to be able to navigate those curves. It's fine. We can all do our work differently, but find ways to collaborate. That goes into our check-ins. They're scheduled, okay? Team members, we are reaching out, you know, or, you know, even just informal check-ins on WhatsApp, that's fine. Asynchronous is, you know, providing platforms where we can work differently at different times, but still be able to collaborate and achieve our objectives. It's really important to do that now. Now, we've talked about results-only work environment. This is not the time to be ambiguous, for us to pass the mantle and say, you know, it wasn't really me. I think it was Charles' work. No, but me, I did my part. I think Ivy should have done this. Now, I'm just mentioning names within our own team. Right now, to go through this, we must be very clear about what we expect our team members to deliver, okay? Not minute-by-minute accounts. Okay, so now I woke up in the morning and then I sat and then I checked my email and then I responded to 5 emails. We don't need to know that. What we need to know is you were supposed, for example, to prepare for this training, roll it out by this time. Are you ready? These are the key milestones you are to achieve. So this is not the time for ambiguity. Accountability is key, to be honest. Okay? And you know what we are finding with a lot of our clients is those whom we've worked with and they have very strong project management frameworks have good success with being able to outline goals and objectives, smart objectives, because they need to be achievable. Because this is the time to apply all your project management principles. All right, this is really the time. All right. Now, going into the next slide, I think one of the things that we've gone through today is navigating the change curve. And I'm being cognizant of the fact that I'm seeing the comments. Sorry, we are not responding to them right now. In around 15 minutes, we should be able to take up some questions and respond, okay? So I want us to go back to the change curve. When we start that change curve, any change, you know, and by the way, whether it's positive or negative change, it elicits a reaction from us psychologically. Now, right now, some of what we're going through is, you know, this is a pandemic. This is negative, all right? And then we come back and say, oh, now work from home. And first, people's reaction will be, oh my God, you know, from the poll, it was showing some people, you know, work from home was only for certain levels. And now it's open for everyone, excitement. Or, you know, but there's also the fear, work from home, then what? Will I lose my job? You know, what is this thing that I have through? Shock, we went through denial, frustration, depression, you know, it was, I can't do this. Now, all this is part of the anxiety zone, okay? For all of us, whether you're a leader, whether you're the team member, the important thing for you, especially as a leader, is to acknowledge to yourself where you are, that's self-awareness, and then looking at your team and talking to them and trying to map out, because this is what we do with our clients. Like, we're going through a change process. Where are you in this change curve? Okay. Now, being able to acknowledge that the main theme when you're starting here is fear. Fear. This is where, you know, when people were busy buying tissue, you know, at the time when this was hitting, I remember watching a video, I think from the US, like, why are they buying tissue? Now, let me make you laugh. I did exactly the same thing. When I went to the supermarket, I bought a lot of tissue because people bought tissue. I was like, you know, they must know what they're doing. That is part of fear, you know. I don't know what I don't know, okay? So I'm just complaining, I'm angry, I'm upset. Why is this happening to us? Now, when you're going back to the remote work environment, technology is not going to work. Oh, you know, and now I've not even been hearing from my manager. Oh, you know, and people get angry easily. Remember, it's a mix of things. It's not only about what is happening in your work environment, okay? It is also what is happening around me. Face it, we live with our extended families. When my children left school, all of a sudden, and you know, I'm supposed to be very good at mathematics and Kiswahili for those who are Kenyan, and English and science, and then I am supposed to sit and still work. You know, Faye has expected deliverables. I am one human being. Okay, so there's also displaced anger here. You as a manager need to see and bring your team together. Don't just know. talk about these changes, acknowledge them. This is part of your connection. Be vulnerable. Okay, of course, you're not saying, go, oh, I'm so scared, but then, you know, be vulnerable with your team so they can be vulnerable with you so you can have a connection. Okay, all right. Now, remember also at this point, for those in teams, teams that have been operating really well, you know, all the stages in, you know, in having teams, formation stage, storming, norming, performing. Now, you could have been doing very well, even performing. You find you've gone back to norming and even storming stages. So again, going back to the leadership style. Now, if you at performing stage, you're just giving direction, you're doing, okay, fine, guys, go and do. You're taking this team back and they're back to storming because we are creating new ground rules, new ways to operate. So how do we create those ways? We have to unlearn what we knew to learn new things and change our ways. That's difficult. And we're adults. A lot of us, you know, changing our behavior really takes, you know, a lot of skill development, okay? Now, usually what happens when you move from the anxiety zone, then you move forward and now, oh, okay, you start to adapt, okay? What can I do? There are things that I cannot change, all right? In the adaptation zone, we're thinking, maybe we could do this. We are exploring. We are more self-aware of our emotions. I am feeling frustrated because when Faye was talking about the team member who was working from the car, that is me. My power went away at 6 in the morning and I was really frustrated, but I've gotten to the point where now I say, can I control whether Kenya Power will go and do what they're supposed to do? No, what can I control? I can find other ways to get power. And that's me getting to the point of adaptation, okay? Knowing that I would act if I act frustrated, if I'm not, it doesn't change what needs to get done, okay? I need to move forward, all right? So at this point, again, for you as a leader, you're talking to your team, okay? You're saying, okay, now we at this point are adapting, okay? What are the skills we need to learn or learn? What innovative practices can we have together so that we can engage, so that we can connect? Remember, as a leader, you can't sit at home and say, okay, now how do we connect? Okay, I am thinking 3 days a week we will meet. But you cannot do that. You can't. You want to have those ideas, put them out together, let it be. This is the time for you to make collaborative decisions so that they don't feel like you're pushing something down their throat. Otherwise, oh, you want us to meet 2 days a week? No problem, we'll be there. What time and what time? Okay, fine. Anyway, that's fine. That's what he said. I don't know why he said that. So it's also you being able to adapt. Huh? Now, when we move from that adaptation zone, then when we move from the adaptation zone, of course, now we move into maturity. Now, again, just like the change curve, we move at our own pace. So you'll have team members who get to maturity really fast, who get to adapting really fast, and some who are still anxious, and you have to keep moving them along with you. It's important to know who they are. Of course, you want to be conscious not to get to the point where you're not meeting your objectives because, everybody is still down there being angry and anxious. So you need to keep moving people, hold people accountable. Again, going back to the results, I could be anxious, but if you're telling me I must do 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll be held accountable for that, then my demeanor is also different, okay? So please just take cognizance of that. And again, an adapting stage, we are looking at, if you're a team, this is the point we are going back to norming, okay? We are moving from storming slowly, going back to norming again. Different leadership styles are needed here for you to be able to get your team from the norming to the performing stage, all right? Then, of course, now at maturity, now we have teams, now you have more connections, okay? People are being vulnerable with each other. I can get on the phone and say, I'm here, but to be honest, it's been a tough day. It's been tough. My kids were doing this, or I'm anxious. And for some of us, this is affecting us directly. It might be that I even know somebody is affected, or infected. And so now I'm being able to connect, but you need to give that platform for connection, okay? Again, empathy. Please remember to empathize as leaders, all right? Now I want us to move forward to the pitfalls, challenges that we are bound to see. Many of our clients who've transitioned to remote working, even during normal times, let alone right now when we are dealing with everything else, really we are finding it's the same questions and concerns that we are helping them navigate, okay? Now, if you had silos in your organization before, let me tell you, and you're not looking for ways to deal with them, they're now more glaring, okay? They are more pronounced. Now, how are we finding people being able to navigate this? You have to find work that helps people to collaborate, where for you to achieve this particular thing, me and the head of this department and that department, we must work together and our teams must work together. That's the only way you break silos. You encourage collaboration. So you must gear the projects or the goals or the outcomes that you're hoping to achieve towards having people working together. So that it's not an option. It's not an option that one person can, this department can do and then that's fine, okay? Now, the other question we're having is, are staff even working? Huh? How do I know these people are working? Now, let me tell you, you getting on phone, if Faye was on the phone with me every 30 seconds to find out, or 1 hour, we are doing 1 hour check-ins to see if everyone is there, or there's somebody checking and saying, Luru, you are not online between the hours of 10 to 11, then let me tell you, my friend, it's going to be very, very tough for you, eh? Because we mentioned asynchronous collaboration, okay? It's important to connect, to build rapport. We recommend have scheduled meeting times for your teams and also for your individual team members. It really, you want to know if your staff are really working? Go back to having clear results, goals, objectives, outcomes. That's what we want to see, because then you can hold me accountable to the work that I need to do, okay? Now, you know, we want to see what is being done, by when is it being done, and by whom. Being very clear, having very clear work plans and work breakdown structures is very important for you right now. Now, communication, and I really like this quote, huh? And it says, you know, the void created by the failure to communicate is soon filled with poison, drivel, and misrepresentation. Now, you have to communicate. You can't say, you know, we didn't say anything because we were hoping. No, say to them, say, we're not currently giving you this level of information because we have certain things we have to work through. Don't let people feel that void. Eh? You know, that water cooler conversation has moved to WhatsApp groups. Eh? So don't imagine because we are not together in the same environment, you know, you can, no. Give people information. Transparency, trust are really one of those things that your staff are really looking for right now, okay? Now, of course, we appreciate that there are certain things you're not just going to go out and say, oh yeah, and by the way, from next week, we are sending people on unpaid leave. We must structure that communication, okay? We must structure that communication to the stakeholders that we are dealing with, okay? Organization success is really based on ability to have crucial conversations. I can't overemphasize really the power of giving feedback, okay? One of the things that we've seen is people say, oh my God, now how do I deal with the poor performers? You deal with the poor performers. You give them the constructive feedback. Communicate, communicate, communicate is the song that we sing, okay? Now, the other thing that, you know, we see a lot is the question of collaboration, okay? Now, this is impacted initially, especially when you go into remote work processes with a remote work environment where this has not been happening. Initially, you'll see the collaboration, you know, being a bit of an issue, okay? But this is now what you strive to do. You have to design projects that are more deliberate on assigning work across teams so that they must work together. Then providing the platforms for people to work together. I mean, from the poll, you know, 66%, no, that was almost 83, no, 66% had no work remote policy before culture, or was just for some people. So also the platforms likely were not well developed, okay? Now, the thing is, you have to be cautious about these platforms that you're putting out, all right? You go out and you say, oh yeah, now we are going to have this project, this platform, this is where we're going to put all our deliverables, we're going to track it. They don't know what you're talking about. Be careful how you introduce your tools at this point in time. Get people on board, talk to them. Why are you introducing this platform? How will it benefit them? There are people who are saying, oh my God, you know, they say that we should start using this one. It's because they want to track us. Do you know they want to track us? So it's really, really important for you at this point to say, I am introducing this because it will assist us to do this, okay? Share, do some orientation with your team, okay? There's already enough change happening. Don't impose change that you don't need to, okay? Then we talked about, I think, and Faye had mentioned it, loneliness, all right? Now, we are social beings by nature, okay? We had a call the other day. We were doing some online orientation, and you know, at the end of the call, we stayed online and we were listening to this lady sharing her issues about, you know, oh, you know what, she was planning a party. I have somebody that I know very closely who had a wedding that was coming up, you know. So, you know, in addition to everything that's happening now, I'm in isolation dealing with all these things that I thought I could deal with other people. You need to think about the team members who, you know, who you're working with, you know. It's really time to figure out how to have that human interaction, okay? Show an act of kindness. Send an encouraging message. Achievements, you know, thank you very much. That was really good what you did. I mean, I saw in one of the there was one research I think we were doing, they even had pizza parties. We used to have brown bag lunches. Well, bring them to the table during one of your team meetings. Say, everybody come, let's have lunch together and share, you know, what we need to share. So you need to bring back that connection differently. So it calls for innovation. Reach out to yourself, say, what can we do to make us connect, you know? Then I think we've talked about synchronous and asynchronous quite a bit. The other thing I just wanted to mention here, this is also the time for you to maybe do your learning and skills and capacity building. It's really the time for you to do this, to be honest, you know. Creating learning paths, pairing up your team members to work together, that's part of building connection, encouraging rapport. Now, let's look at the tips, some of the tips that we see just very quickly so that we can go into reviewing the questions. Have a remote working agreement, okay? Just looking at this, you know, for most of you who didn't even have the remote working culture, you know, you sent your staff home, you said, go home and work, and we'll provide the tools. Go back, have something that they can sign on, something that has really the rules of engagement, okay? Now you have something there on staff polls. Today, as we've been doing this presentation, we've had you take a series of polls so that we could know how you're feeling. What are your challenges? What are your areas to build some of the skills? Do that with your own staff, okay? And we conducted a poll as part of our work with our clients last week, and we found some of the challenges they brought were, how do I stay connected with my team members? Some of the issues you're raising up, and that's what we're working with them now on, you know, having strategies outlined for how they work with their team members. Managing your own stress as a leader, you know, what is it you're going through, and then even before you engage your own team members. Motivation, morale, but we found that from sharing a poll with them, okay? Organizational hotline, I mean, if we had time, we'd definitely like to see how many of you have this, okay? Set up organizational hotline, email, SharePoint sites where staff can raise concerns about remote working, the challenges they have, as well as get immediate support. Now, some of this information may be confidential, so it might be that HR is the one that is handling it, or if you feel otherwise and you have a different system, just have somebody who manages that portfolio, please, okay? Now, again, we go back to deliverables, not just attendance. Accountability is key, clear deliverables for each team members. Use project management tools right now, okay? Monitor your progress. Have risk identifications and tracking tools. Issue logs. Decision making. The Rapid Eye tool is really good for decision, so that we can say if Nuru is responsible for making the decision, she should. Have, you know, very clear work plans with responsible people for each of the outputs, okay? Now, let me talk quickly about the meeting format. Now, usually we have the meetings and we have agendas, you know, we say we start introduction, agenda 1, agenda 2. This is the time for you to spend. What did you charge them? How are you feeling? How is it? How are your kids? Talk to me. You're talking about building rapport. Talk to me and listen. Listen to the things I'm saying. Listen to the things I'm not saying to you. We encourage you to put on your videos. You know why? then you can see me. You can see my facial expression, you know, because that's part of communication, isn't it? Huh? And don't just expect them to put on the videos immediately, you know. Put yours on. Next time 2 people will. Next time 3 people will. You're changing people, and change takes time. Remember that, okay? So spend a little time just feeling with your team. That's it. How are you feeling, okay? Let staff know what they can expect from you. Now, we are used to blue ticks on our WhatsApp. Blue tick, you didn't respond to my blue tick. It was 1 o'clock when I sent it. You didn't respond at 1:06. You know what? We are used to immediate feedback. That's the society we are. Information is flowing on social media. Part of what is our problem, actually, with anxiety is the amount of information we are getting now. Now, what do you want to do? You want your staff now to start understanding, it will take me this amount of time to respond to you. Okay, this is the best time for us to call each other. This is how, you know, lead with integrity. As leaders right now, we expect you to do what you say we should do. Don't tell me what to do if you won't do it. Okay. You know, you want staff to have their videos on, please have your video on. All right. Now, I just, empathy, you know, you want to build connections, you connect with me if you empathize. You know, today when we talked with Faye in the morning, she's like, oh my God, you're in the car. And we talked about that for a bit. It made me feel like we connected. So I could do this in the car another day. It's fine. She understands it. Okay, Faye, I'll move back to you.
Thank you, Nuru, so much for some of these insights and tips. And I can see a lot of questions have come up in the chat. So we're gonna try and answer as many of them as we can right now. So Nuru, you're being appreciated. Many people are saying good stuff, Nuru. Thank you, Nuru. So let me start with a few which came up quite a bit. And that is about both from staff saying, how can we show our managers that we're actually working? And that's quite a common thing that we are seeing, that staff are quite fearful in the sense of, how do I show I'm actually working? You know, does it mean I have to be with my phone, basically even in the shower? And vice versa, also a lot of managers who are asking, how do I know my team is working? And Nuru kind of touched on that a little bit. So just to give a kind of summary of it. First of all, if you're a manager or a leader, a good employee is a good employee. Okay, so somebody who was working while they were in the office is highly likely to continue also working while they are out of the office or working from home. It might take them some time, like I said before, to transition into the new setup, but it's unlikely that somebody who was one of your star performers all of a sudden when they're home forgets the fact that they have a job to do. If you are seeing some lags, like Nuru was saying, do the check-in. Find out why somebody is struggling. It can be for such a myriad of reasons. Again, your own self-regulation is going to play a key role here so that you don't jump to assumptions. For those of you saying, well, how can I show my manager that I'm working? It's the same thing that Nuru was alluding to. It's about explain to people what they can expect from you, right? Have a conversation to say, listen, because of my setup right now, it's best if you call me at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when I'm available before I am breastfeeding or I'm cooking or I'm doing whatever it is that you're doing. What we're trying to say is right now you need to create a collaboration, full stop. It's not about what is most suitable just for one person in the team, but what is going to work for all of us. At least in the transition period, like I said, the first 10 days to 14 days as people are getting used to this. Many of you on the call here have never had to school your children at home. It is the first time that you're being asked to do this, as well as working, as well as kids not even understanding that when mom or dad is at home, it doesn't mean playtime, right? So we're trying to put this structure into place. So that's on that. Your question right now as a manager in the first 10 days should not be, is my staff even working? Your question should be, how do I help them to work? How do I check in with them? Now, another question that is coming out quite a lot is about, how do I support those staff who cannot work remotely? Okay, that could be maybe your receptionists, your drivers, your cleaners, and staff who do not have laptops, for example. Like we're saying, companies who are doing a successful remote working, they have had years to set up the proper systems for this. For staff who cannot work remotely because of their job, we discussed that a little, actually quite extensively in our last webinar, but I'll just touch on that briefly. Your job right now is to put in place care packages for them, right? So if certain staff cannot work remotely, then you need to start thinking about, can you put them on leave, on paid leave? Is there other ways that you can reassign them? I know some of you in the chat have said we have reassigned them now to other projects where they can do some work a bit remotely. So that's going to be very context specific. But really looking at, can I either assign them? Can I put them onto extended paid leave in negotiation with them? At what point will they go on to unpaid leave, for an example? And how can I support them with care packages? The staff who are not able to work from home, in many of your cases, will be staff at the lower end of your organizational hierarchy, okay? So for them, even more important right now to have care packages, whether that is basic food supplies, phone credit, whatever it is, because they do not have a lot of disposable income to stock up on whatever it is that they need to stock up on. For those of you saying, well, what about laptops? We've been working with a lot of clients on that actually, who have been having to transition very quickly. And there is no easy answer to it, right? If you don't have laptops for all of your staff, well, then you need to think about, are you giving people a kind of temporary grant so that they can purchase a tablet or a phone or something that they can do their work on? Are you going to purchase for people additional devices so that they can be working on? Are you going to support people with internet credit or dongles or whatever it is? That's going to be very, very contextual to you. We had a nice question, and it makes me laugh because somebody said, how do I balance family and working from home? And I was reading somebody else's story the other day, and it might not be applicable to all of you, but this was a lady who said what she was doing was she was getting dressed in the morning and going out the front door saying bye to her children, and then going back through the back door and sneaking into the bedroom to work, so that she had, you know, 3 hours where the kids thought mom was at work, and then she would come back from work, you know, through the back door into the front, and then her husband would do the same thing. So that might not be for everybody, right? But the fact is also not putting yourself under pressure. It can be really, really difficult right now for you to get into the same rhythm, which is why Nuru was talking about the asynchronous, okay? Having this live interaction might be a challenge. So one of your staff might be better off sending you an email or uploading something at 11 p.m. Another one can respond to it at 3 a.m. and another one is doing something else at 7 p.m. You need to be flexible on this right now because you do not know what is somebody's circumstance at home. Okay, you don't even know if they have a space where they can quietly work from without people screaming and shouting and jumping up and down. It goes back to the empathy component. The question, and I'll touch that in Nurul, and I'll see on your end if anything new has come up. The question of layoffs specifically and paid versus unpaid leave. Again, we addressed that in our previous webinar. The reality is, in many of the countries where we work on, but also in many European countries and in the US, the labor law is a bit behind because the labor law did not foresee a situation where everybody has to close shop all at the same time, okay? So we are seeing now in the Kenyan and in the Ugandan context, but also in the US context, more and more kind of labor law advice coming out or revisions coming out. So when we're talking about, for instance, paid or unpaid work, that is still at this point a discussion which you will have to have with your employees, okay? Is at what point can I put you onto unpaid leave? At what point do we need to kind of close shop here? And I won't go into too much detail because you can watch that in the recording of our previous one, how to, you know, manage some of those challenges a little bit more, or even, you know, extending sick leave or these kind of things. Nuru, I just want to check with you on any additional questions that are coming up or things that you might want to feedback onto as well.
Okay, I think I saw somebody had mentioned the issue of silos. When we're talking about silos, really, we're talking like you go to an organization and people say, oh, you know what, there is the finance team is not working well with the programs team, especially, in those settings, you have a lot of that. They're not listening to us, these people, the IT team is not being supportive or being responsive to our needs. That's, people are saying they just do their own thing and we do our own thing. They don't know, they don't understand our frustrations. That's what we meant by silos. And that's why we're saying at this point, having projects that are more collaborative in nature, where if it's programs and finance, for example, where you feel there's an issue of procurement and programs, that you're making them sit together to plan together, to implement together, to celebrate success together, because then you're breaking down the silo of procurement and finance and program team or those leaders up there. You really want to try and do that. That's what we meant by silos. So I hope that answered your question. The other thing that came to mind that I saw somewhere that I thought was really nice, it's like you say, we are social beings, and we like to celebrate things. We like to feel appreciated. And I know, if you're an organization with a lot of money, what you're talking about in terms of the care packages, you could send care packages to your staff, but that's probably not the environments you work in. But acknowledge, celebrate each other's birthdays, celebrate milestones, My son's birthday is on April the 22nd. Faye, did you take a note? I hope so. I want her to acknowledge and say, hey, if I say, hey, it's my son's birthday, yeah, how are you feeling? Oh my God, how old is he? It's my birthday coming up soon. Just there's small little things you can do to acknowledge each other. Small little things that can make your meetings more interesting. There's always the person in your team who is really good at making serious things look funny. Use them. That's a skill set they have. You don't have to have that as a leader. Leaders are not supposed to be, the be all and know all of everything. But we're supposed to tap into the skill sets of the team members we have so that we can be able to meet goals and objectives. So you know what? Maybe my social skills still need some work, but I know that Faye is just, wow. You get Faye into that room, she'll get people to open up, to connect. Use that skill set within your team. Okay. Faye, I think that just jumped to my mind, and I hope I answered the question on the silos. If not, please let me know, or maybe you can add on to that, Faye.
Well, we had a question that came in at the beginning, and actually I think it was by a participant called Susan, and a number of people said, yes, actually that's a really good question, and they wanted to have some information on that. Is about, how do you manage up, right? So how do we help our managers or our leaders change their kind of management style, from being directional to being more collaborative and these kind of things. And so if you are right now in the situation where you are dealing with a tricky manager or a tricky head of department, we go back again to the change curve. Okay, you do not know automatically, and don't make an assumption where that person is in. They might be in shock themselves, they might be in a depression, they might be in frustration, they're panicking themselves. So it's first of all going back again to the issue of empathy, to just acknowledging right now everybody needs a bit more time. Nuru had spoken about the issue around feedback as well. It's then scheduling also a one-on-one discussion with your manager or head of department, to asking them, first of all, what kind of support do you need from me? Right now at this difficult time period, how can I as a team member be more value adding, right? What can I offer? What do you need from me? How would you like me to communicate with you? Or how would you like me to share information with you on a regular basis? So it's about reaching out as well on your end. Now, of course, in an ideal situation, your manager would be the strong kind of rock, but the reality is not all managers can do that. They are stressing and panicking themselves, and we don't know what they are going through right now and where they have reached. I can see some comments again around the kind of layoffs and this kind of stuff. And we had that discussion in the last webinar, and we are happy to maybe speak with you also one-on-one on contextual issues, but without trying to alarm anybody. You know, the reality at the end of the day is, yes, of course, many businesses and organizations might face layoffs at some point in time. We do not know how long this thing is going on for. If you are in the service industry here in this call, you know that your business relies on interacting with other people in tourism, in the hotel industry, in restaurants. So you cannot keep all your staff indefinitely if there is no business coming in. And that's a kind of discussion which you need to be having with your teams. Like we mentioned in the last webinar, it's about that business continuity plan to say, this is our 90-day runway, which we have. And in this 90 days, this is what's going to happen. If it passes 90 days, this is how the situation will start to look. So it also helps your staff not to panic that tomorrow I'm going to lose my job. We know of a couple of organizations who have contacted us. They created widespread panic. When they sent people from home, when they sent people to work from home, many staff started to get anxious. Does it mean if I'm being sent home now, by next week, somebody's going to call me and say my job is over? So going back to the whole communication, tell people, for the next 3 weeks we are at home. We are going to reevaluate after 10 days. There will be a message. Nobody is being laid off until X. Again, with the caveat of always speaking to your employment lawyer. So I'm just trying to see if there's any other questions that are coming out here. There was a question about sanity. How do you ensure your staff's sanity in this entire period, and also your own sanity at the same time? You know, one of the things, and my team will laugh, the people from the RavelWorks team who are on this call, they will laugh, but one of the things that I told my team is that if you want to panic about COVID-19, that is fine. Schedule your time in the day to panic. Whether you want to panic at night, at lunchtime, in the evening, do your 3 hours or 2 or 4 and just go, you know, go crazy. Oh my goodness, did you see this on WhatsApp? Did you see the news? You know, this is somebody shared with me, because you need to go through the process. But after those 3 hours of panic, let's go back to whatever we were doing on, right? You cannot spend your whole day in this kind of paralysis. So that kind of helps keep people sane, is that you are acknowledging that their fears and anxieties are real. You are giving people a time to kind of panic about it, but you're also giving people structure at the same time. And we are no different, right? As much as I might be the MD of RavelWorks, I also have my moments where I'm like, oh my goodness, how long is this thing gonna take? You know, is it another week? Is it 6 months? So we need those moments, and that's a good way to kind of ensure sanity, is by acknowledging it. And we do a lot of our team calls. We start them by just asking the team, how is everybody feeling? On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 means I am depressed, I'm low, I'm freaking out, and others, you know, 5 meaning that I'm in a great mood. And we kind of just check in to see, well, why are you a 3? What's going on at your side? And depending on what your team setup is, you might want to do that in a one-on-one checkup, or you might want to do that in a bigger team setting. So great. Now, I think we are almost out of time. Nuru, you want to have something still to add?
I think just in relation to what you said, a structure, and I think we talked about this morning. Some of us, I mean, I know I've worked in a religious organization once in my life, and some of you work in religious organizations. This is just an example. If you do, I remember what used to happen is we'd start our day with prayer. It was really important to me, you know, after a while, after 6 months in the organization, initially I was like, what do you mean? You know, I can pray on my own. But after 6 months, it was part of me. This is what I did. I started my day with prayer. That's actually one way you can do your connection, is to say, okay, we will start our day with prayer. At 9 o'clock as a team, we will meet, and maybe we will just do prayer and say, okay, guys, have a good day. You know, we'll engage the way we engage. And as a team, we will, okay, bye. No expectations. Don't put anything there. Just that. So it's really also looking at your own culture and organizational values. What have you been doing that you want to keep doing? Okay, yeah. And how can you keep doing that? That's really the innovative part of what, you know, we are encouraging you to do. to think through.
Right. Great. Okay. Listen, guys, thank you so much, everybody, for being on this webinar with us for 1.5 hours in total. Like I said, we have a series that we are running at the moment to help businesses and organizations navigate through this difficult time. You can find us on all of our social media. We're trying to keep them up to date, but please feel free to drop us a line. For those of you who joined us via HR Mau, please reach out to your crew at HR Mau for the webinar recordings and for also information on future webinars. Now, finally, this is the slide of where we are normally located. Of course, right now you can't visit us because we're all working from home. But once we are back and running again, do pay us a visit if you happen to be in Nairobi. Webinars being recorded, we will share out the resources with you afterwards, including some of the self-assessments. So we wish you all a very, very good rest of your Friday. And thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Take care, everyone.